WBEE HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here from the High Falls Studios in downtown Rochester. We're outside, sunny, 90 degrees. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon on this All-Star Tuesday in July, or you could say World Cup semifinal in July. 585-866-4326 is our phone number. You can reach us on X, our handle at WGR Rochester. You can leave a comment if you're watching online, YouTube and Twitch. We always welcome your feedback there as well. And you can reach us on 95.7 FM, AM 950, always free inside the Odyssey app. For anybody that kind of bitches about, which I'm one of those people too, right? Like you get to the World Series, like, why are these games on so late? Well, the answer obviously is television. Wouldn't it be so nice if we actually had a World Series game in the late afternoon when I was a kid? Well, this is what today and tomorrow is basically, and I'm not talking about baseball. I'm talking about the World Cup, 3 o'clock today from Dallas Stadium, which I'm sure. I don't think there's going to be a cutaway of Jerry Jones because FIFA controls those cutaways, but that's the home of Jerry World. They're hosting today's semifinal between France and Spain, Argentina and England. Tomorrow will be that game in Atlanta. So both those games at 3 o'clock. Think of the opportunity for soccer here, for the World Cup, just to get to a different, younger audience. I am totally fine with these games being on at 3 o'clock. And it's just a reminder, too, that they're not on a 3 just for our benefit. Really, it's overseas. They want to make it palatable to everybody over there. If they put them on primetime here, say even 7 o'clock, well, it's not going to bring in a big number there in Europe. So hopefully we get a couple good games today and tomorrow. Hopefully we get an all-star game we can kind of talk about. I mean, what do we usually get out of the all-star game? Stars will be out there for 1-2 innings. Maybe we'll get a story about a player or two, making sure they're getting out of Dodge before the game is over. Those always kind of make me laugh. All-Star game tonight in Philadelphia. We could talk about last night, too. Before I do that, today's show, just the one guest coming up bottom of this hour, which it's a 2-for-1 in my opinion. The 2-for-1 being this guy is on 2 beats and does an excellent job with both. Brian Koziel, who you hear on the Sabres Broadcast Network as their intermission host, post-game show host. He will be joining us. He's also the co-host of Tee to Green, and we have a golf major, which, okay, the Open. Can you imagine what that would be like? I looked this up. I was kind of surprised to learn that when was the last time an Englishman won the Open? Well, I'll give you the guy's name. You've heard of him, Nick Faldo. You have to go all the way back to 1992. 92. And last time England won a World Cup, you actually have to go back to 1966. Now, one of those two, as old as I am, Tim, not in my lifetime. Our producer, Tim Schneider, wearing his Jays hat. I assume that's for Ernie Clement. But think about what kind of day this would be for England on Sunday. Say if a Tommy Fleetwood. Now, we know Tommy Fleetwood because, my gosh, I had that haircut when I was 18. I think, and if you could still rock it like he does, go for it. I haven't seen a picture of him recently, but I would assume he still has it. But I'm trying to think of, okay, most likely Englishmen to come and actually win an Open. Notice I said it the correct way. They really don't like it when we say British Open. And then imagine if England is in the final, too, of the World Cup, because pretty much NBC's coverage will be wrapped up by, you would figure, somewhere around 1 o'clock on Sunday. NBC Peacock has the Open, and of course Fox has the World Cup. It's going to be a different kind of Sunday vibe here between going overseas and watching a sport that, I don't mean to offend anybody, but is not on our primary menu here in the United States. But my gosh, now it is. This is the main course. The main course this week, I'm sorry, it's not tonight. It's Sunday, in my opinion. But just to think about what that would do for England if they actually just kind of 2 long droughts eliminated both those in one day.
That would be fun for England, but even for the U.S., like I'm going to eat both those things up. I'm locked into the World Cup today. I'm locked into World Cup tomorrow. I'm locked in for the championship on Sunday. And Justin Rose is also an Englishman that is in the mix there.
Yeah, so Justin Rose, I'm sure we can come up with a big list. I just like Tommy Fleetwood because his hair is better than Justin Rose's.
Fair.
Right. Tim Schneider, fine producer, you're welcome to join us. This is a Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 585-866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. Last Thursday, we were joined by Bart Winkler, who he's outstanding. You can check out his YouTube feed. For many years, he was doing the evening show on the now-defunct Infinity Sports Network. And Bart brought up an interesting point, and it's this, that we should kind of look like how we do the rankings of sport here in our country. And for many, many years, it was, hey, here are the 4 primary sports in our country, 4 primary leagues, and we'd rank them. And the NFL would be first, and the National Hockey League would be 4th, and then we would debate, all right, is it the NBA, is it Major League Baseball? And right now, I would say, kind of a tie. Last year, I would have said, oh, it's baseball. 2 years ago, Yankees-Dodgers, oh, it's baseball. Baseball's not helping themselves right now. They're just not. We'll get to that. But the NBA having the Knicks win, all right, that's debatable. Bart says, no, don't look at it all. And again, you could put college football in that now, too, since they're paid professionals, too. Yeah, and if we're going to do those rankings, I would put college football actually, too, behind the NBA and baseball tie. You would have them tied for 3rd. Bart says, look at this differently, which, okay, I would. Number 1 on the list, the NFL. The NFL is king in our country, and I don't see that slowing down anytime. We check back in 30, 40 years, and the NFL still will be king. Number 2 on the list, college football. I can't argue against that. So last night while I'm watching the Home Run Derby, one of the monitors had the ACC network on for some reason. And the ACC network, apparently they're getting ready, or they did. I don't really pay attention to the media days. And part of that is, hey, we want Syracuse football to be good, but come on, let's get it together, Fran Brown. What was hilarious to me was they threw up a graphic, and the ACC network is basically ESPN. The graphic of here are the odds for each team in the ACC to win the conference this year. And, kind of they're right at the top. Clemson, you've got Virginia Tech, Florida State, certainly, Miami. Going all the way down to 2% for Georgia Tech. Syracuse isn't even listed. Syracuse and Boston College, not even listed. I don't even know what the odds would be. They would be really, really long. But can we just be competitive? But back to the point about college football. College football is number 2 on this list. It's not as big here for that reason, because maybe we're down in the dumps with Syracuse football. Maybe we get back to that point. But you can't deny the numbers across the country. People love college football. It is growing exponentially. So the NFL 1, college football 2, and then you would rank it this. U.S. sports otherwise 3, and international sports 4. Which, for international sports, you know where he's going with that. That's soccer. That's not just the World Cup. That's Premier League. That's everything kind of in that. Maybe you would throw in the Olympic sports. It's a different way to kind of look at it. And the point is, like, if you're going to just do clear rankings, that's it. Because you and I could debate, all right, what should be number 3 on the list? Is it the NBA? Is it Major League Baseball? Maybe you're a hockey nut, depending on the it's not hockey. I would love it if it got to that point. But the point is, all right, like everything else at number 3. So credit Bart for that take. But for baseball. Now, last night, Netflix had this on for the first time, and it's a reminder that, hey, careful what you wish for, because for so many years we griped, we bitched and moaned about, the price of cable TV, and if we could only get what we really wanted, could we buy this a la carte? But what we really didn't see was, hey, it's not going to be like cable. It's going to be all these other cancerous things. By cancerous, I'm talking about cancerous to your wallet, right? They're going to just suck the money out of your wallet, but whether it's Netflix or Apple, and it's hard to let go one of those, because chances are there's going to be a show that might kind of sink their claws into you. On Apple, it's hard to let go of Apple now. If you like Ted Lasso with the next new show, convenient timing too, like right after the World Cup, and then Apple is going to launch the new season of Ted Lasso. Very curious. Kind of hard to let go of Netflix, right? When they're kind of wading into the pool of pro sports, where, hey, here's some Christmas Day NFL games. And it was kind of ballsy for Major League Baseball to move that over to Netflix. And I'm going to be curious to see, all right, what are the numbers here? Because for you and me, all right, yeah, we're finding it. We're watching it. To what degree? You might have turned it off after Ben Rice, got out, and that's totally fine. But if it's not in the path of somebody just kind of flicking around, they may forget about it. So, I know what is on the calendar in terms of sports, but I'm talking about just the casual person. Did they find it on Netflix? Did that actually hurt baseball in a way last night? Exactly what we predicted on some levels. There would be, hey, somebody from Netflix is promoting something where we're going to do this in a ha-ha sort of way. And just by all accounts, the beginning there with Will Ferrell, I don't think that was his finest hour. I mean, it was all right. That's good. They had the boxing announcer doing his thing. I don't think he was there to promote. I'm not even going to mention his name because I'm frightened that he'll sue us.
Yeah, right.
We have that training every year. Every year that individual with that licensed phrase, that if you say this, his lawyers have the software that will track you down and sue you. So I'm not even going to mention his name. Okay, but he was out there, and overall, it was okay. To me, the highlight was, and this is my bias, I admit, but Philly fan going home sad. First of all, you had the way it just kind of fell was, hey, we're only going to take 4 guys to the semifinal by definition. This is a semifinal. It's 4 guys, right? And wait a second. In number 4 is Kyle Schwarber, and last up is Bryce Harper. Harper has to get to 11 to knock out Schwarber, and went to a tie or whatever, and so technically Schwarber knocks out Harper. So, all right, that's one Philly guy knocking out another. And then, ultimately, at the end, it was Jordan Walker, not to be confused with Jordan Hudson.
Correct, with an O.
With an O. Jordan Walker, who... Hey, you play fantasy baseball. You know this guy. He came up, but I think the Cardinals brought him up a little too soon. Went back down, and now he's mashing the ball for St. Louis. And that was kind of like, hey, if you don't really – St. Louis is one of those teams that we paid attention to for many, many years, and they kind of had a little bit of a reboot. I think they're going to be really good maybe next year. But Walker being one of those guys, they got Weatherholt, they got some other young talented players. Walker winning it and then silencing the Philly crowd all against you. I mean, how fun would that be? And this is also kind of a fun fact, and it's something to kind of keep in mind next year, that if you're somebody, and I'll bring this up to PJ Glasser when he joins us tomorrow, in the history of the All-Star Home Run Derby, and it's been going on since 1985, the Metrodome, every single year, because, the fans in attendance, majority of the fans, you want to see the hometown guy, right? And pretty much every team in baseball has a guy that can hit a home run, right? You're going to have somebody there for the hometown fans. And this is a little different where you had 2 guys. Tim, you want to take a guess? Since 1985, okay, checks notes. How many years is that? Okay, we're talking a long, long time, almost 40 years. How many times has somebody from the hometown team actually won the hometown derby?
I'll say 1.
3.
Was Miguel Tejada one of them? I don't remember where he won his.
Oh, I have to look up, but here's the fun question here. One of the guys was last night. It's a little bit of a trick question.
Yeah, you got me. I'm confused. Is he a Philadelphia guy, like born?
No, I'm saying one of the guys that participated last night previously won a home run derby for his hometown team.
Schwarber in Chicago?
Nope.
Harper in Washington?
Correct. Harper in Washington. I'd have to look up the other two guys. We'll do that in the break in a little bit. 585-866-4326 is the number. I'm taking it all in because I don't mean to be like doom and gloom guy, but the rhetoric is starting to kind of kick up here when it comes to the labor stuff. And part of it, too, is, hey, that's the number one topic we all want to know, right? Like you're Rob Manfred. It would be nice to talk about expansion or, hey, what are some things? Or even like, let's talk about the young talent in the game. No. Can we actually guarantee there's going to be a season next year? And nobody can say that definitively. But now you have a union representative who had some strong words to say. And I'm having a flashback. And the flashback is this. Back to 1994, where they canceled the season. And that's different. That was actually a players' strike. And the players agreed to strike, and therefore they couldn't figure it out, and you know, the season was lost, right? Ended up killing the Montreal Expos because, gosh, they end up winning the World Series, even get to there. Who knows what happens with the course of that franchise. But the point is that in the announcement, you had a few players going up, and one of the best young pitchers in the game at that point, in 1994, pitched for the Atlanta Braves, and the guy's in the Hall of Fame right now. Kind of weird to think that he ended up with the Mets at the end of his career. Tom Glavine. And Tom Glavine went up there with the dour face, like there was a funeral, which, okay, in a way, sure, you're canceling the World Series at that press conference, but it was because he was one of the leaders in the union. So on the one hand, I will give him the credit as a leader to get up there and, you know, answer the questions. But on the other hand, I think that's going to follow Glavine around, you know, for a long time. That's part of his story that, okay, yeah, the players striked, and it's sure there's two sides to every story. I'm wondering if this is what Paul Skeens, is anybody pointing that out to him? Because Paul Skeens is a player that we celebrate. He's a good young player. And Paul Skeens is actually, if you're making the argument on behalf of the owners, hey, this is part of the reason we need to fix this. Look at Paul Skeens and imagine him being a Dodger or a Yankee or whoever has the money to do it, because he's not going to be a Pirate under the current system. Now, I would contend that's a Pirate problem. The Pirates could easily fix this, but because they don't want to step out of line with their other owners, they're not. But can they get this done in time? And say we have a labor agreement and there's going to be a salary cap floor, and all of a sudden, voila, Paul Skeens, and the Pirates have to spend money. That would be the first order of business. And it might be that's not the best way to build a team is to pay a star pitcher, but to help build a connection with your fan base, keeping Skeens in Pittsburgh for a long, long time for the bulk of his career, that would be a smart business decision by the Pirates to build trust with a fan base over time. But I don't think they're going to do that. Why? Because I don't think they're going to figure this out in time. So when somebody kind of made the snarky comment that caught Skeens off guard yesterday, called him a future Yankee, I appreciate that. And good on Skeens that he did not react to that. But then Skeens gives this quote. And this is the first time I've heard a player actually put it out here like this. Both sides kind of have to have their line that they're not going to cross. Okay, that's fair. And to me, it's like the salary cap. I would say for the owners, here's my suggestion. Get away from that phrase. Just talk about some, if you're an owner, maybe have it soft or penalize the top end. But just talk about some sort of balance, right? Here, Skeens continue. What's going to be the result here? Whether that results in missing games or missing a season, we'll see. And I don't think he said it the way I said it with the emphasis, but that's the first time I've seen a player actually put it out there about missing a season. So that just kicked up everything to another degree. And with what has to happen for a deal? A deadline. The deadline isn't now. It'd be good for business, but both sides realize, no, the deadline isn't now. It's not in October. The CBA is up December 1st. It's not then either. We'll have a lockout, and we won't have any offseason movement, and we'll be dark for the holidays, and we'll be dark for January. And, hey, pitchers and catchers report. No, they don't. Nope. I mean, this is so predictable the way this is going to work out. So I yet to hear any player just kind of express optimism, or any owner for that matter. Like, this is as doomy-gloomy to me as it was back in 1994. Not exactly apples to apples. That was a strike. This will be a lockout. But the premise is the same. And they're fighting over the same damn thing. That was the salary cap back in 1994. And it was only because Judge Sonia Sotomayor came in and said, no, go back to work. It was a judge's order. And maybe that's ultimately where we end up with this. Yeah, the 95 season ended up late, and people were really pissed off. That was the Braves over the Cleveland baseball team.
It was indeed.
You were probably, what, 5? Okay, close. Brian Colzio. I've got more thoughts on baseball. I've got some football stuff. We'll talk a little soccer, too. My name is Gene Battaglia. Brian Colzio, host of Tee to Green, coming up next here on WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
World Cup semifinals, first one coming up at 3 o'clock today from Dallas. It's France and Spain, England and Argentina, same time tomorrow. Tonight in Philadelphia, it's the Major League All-Star game. Dylan Cease of the Blue Jays starting against Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies. It's also the All-Star break in the minors for the Rochester Red Wings. They're back at it on Friday. Jacksonville will be the opponent. NHL schedule, we should have some dates kind of trickling out tomorrow. The full schedule to be released on Thursday. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com, where today, get 2 rounds for the price of 1 with card to Eagle Vale Golf Course. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Always love talking to Brian Koziel, especially hey, in a Sabre-off season that has been so interesting. It's almost like we get a 2-for-1 here. We get to talk some golf, but then we get to pick Brian's brain here on the Sabres, what has happened, what might happen. Brian, appreciate your time today. 90 degrees in Western New York. Would you rather be out on a day like today or a day like it's too chilly? Or is any day when you're golfing a good day for you?
Probably, I should say that you can never complain when you're playing golf, right? No matter what the weather. But, yeah, I mean, I get 90s better than cold and rainy, I guess, for sure. It's going to be unseasonably hot and firm for the Open this week, too, which is something that maybe not a lot of us like to see. I think part of the lure of the Open is that you get crazy weather and maybe you get that one day where it wreaks havoc. And I don't know if we're going to get that this year, at least in the capacity of maybe something falling from the sky or the temperature.
Yeah, and today, coming up on Thursday, it's going to be Royal Birkdale, the host site, and first time since 2017. Been reading how there's been some changes. How, hey, any player needs a little bit of a strategy going into this. What kind of challenge does this course present, Brian?
Well, I think the challenge for this week is that it's going to play extremely fast and extremely firm, and it's going to – the word that I'm seeing a lot of people use that are there in person this week is crispy. The fairways are going to look brown. Probably for some on TV, they're going to say this looks terrible, everything looks dead. Well, it's just how it is there. And I think you're going to be seeing a lot of irons off the tee for players this week. I saw Scotty Scheffler say that he thinks a 6-iron might go 300 yards if you hit it in the right spot. He said, depending upon where it ends up in the fairway. So that's kind of interesting that we'll be seeing a lot of differences there. But yeah, this course itself, the last time it was there, Jordan Spieth had that magical day where he had that one shot of the 13th that ended up essentially behind the driving range and in the hospitality area, and it took forever, and it took him over 22 minutes to play, and he ended up having that incredible up and down just to save a bogey, and then went on to hold on to end up winning. That was back when Spieth was a real force in golf. We obviously have seen some different changes since then, and we've seen McIlroy and Scheffler and others kind of step up and take their dominance. But what I love about this week too, in terms of maybe the course, is that we know all these DP World players can kind of enter the scenario because they're used to playing this link style of golf all year long. Also, the strategy of how this course is going to play. You've got some of the live golfers coming in that are interesting stories. And Scheffler and McIlroy have both been kind of up and down a little bit this year. At times they look like, the dominating force that they are, and then at times they've struggled a little. So I feel like there's a huge gamut of storylines that we could get from this one in terms of maybe who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, and you're mentioning Scheffler, defending champ, not at this course, but he won the Open last year. He missed the cut last week. You'd be like, whoa, okay, that's a little different. Any cause for concern? Was he trying a few things here? I'm just curious to get your thoughts on, a player like Scheffler, his mental toughness. Can he just kind of, move on from whatever happened last weekend?
Yeah, I think it's just probably something that you just file away and say, look, okay, 78 consecutive cuts. At some point, you're going to have a bad week. And, he just did. And I wouldn't put it in any sort of alarming category. I think he's still the guy at the top of the list that you have to be considered to be a favorite coming in to win this week. He obviously proved last year, like you said, that he's the defending champion, that he knows how to win in this event and has been able to adjust what you need to do to play link-style golf. So, yeah, I mean, would you have rather have seen him contend to win last week versus missing a cut? Probably, but there's also maybe some advantage in the sense that, hey, he got some links golf in, then he got the weekend off. He was actually able to get some extra practice time in at Birkdale. He went over the weekend. Well, he obviously was hoping to be playing at the Scottish Open. So got some extra work in there, maybe some extra course preparation. Maybe in the end, it'll benefit him even more because now he's had some extra homework on the course. So I still like him right there in the discussion to have an opportunity to win in this event here this week, just because even on weeks where he hasn't been at his best, we've seen enough of it over the course of 72 holes that he seemingly is always a factor. I mean, look at the U.S. Open. He figured out a way to get himself into the mix to win at Shinnecock this year. There's been weeks where he's gotten himself off to terrible starts in round ones on Thursdays, and then all of a sudden he has that 63, 64, and he's right back in it. And then on Sunday, there he is with a chance to win. He hasn't won as much this year, we know, as he has in the previous 2 years where he was just dominating golf. But he's been around, and he's even said he's not as sharp. His approach shots in is really, really the one stat to me that jumps off the page. He last year and the previous year where he led PGA Tour in scoring strokes gained on approach shots, his average shot into the green on average was about 21 feet away from the hole, which is outstanding. And, you know, obviously for a guy that's, if you're putting decently, you've got a chance to make a lot of birdies. This year, it's up to 33 feet. So it's a 12-foot difference. And in terms of the percentages of putts made, that's a pretty significant difference in terms of how many putts actually go down. So you can maybe see why the scoring for him has gone up a little bit there. So be curious this week with the wind and the firm conditions. It's maybe a little bit less target golf because you're going to have to bump some shots in. So we'll have to see how that plays out and whether that improves his statistics in that area or whether or not he still maybe goes down the board a little bit and it becomes more of a challenge for him.
Yeah, those players that grow up playing this style, and I'll just point out, just for the sake of this, Tommy Fleetwood, because reading how he grew up near Royal Birkdale, I don't know if that's considered his home course, but I would assume he's got some familiarity to this. How much stock, Brian, do you put into the hometown course angle?
I think it's something that you got to consider. And for Fleetwood, a guy that's due to win a major, we know he finally came through winning the FedEx Cup last year, kind of being the best player to not have a PGA Tour win. Like, he was the clear answer to that question. Now, you know, who's the best player that doesn't have a major? And I don't know if Fleetwood's the first answer, but I think he's in the discussion of best player in terms of current playing status that doesn't have a major on his resume. I think Fleetwood could be in that area. So if he were to win this week, it obviously, you know, would make sense for what he's done in his career, but it also makes sense for the point that you brought up, is that he is so familiar with this course. He is familiar with links golf. He is familiar with playing a different variety of shots and maybe having to bring in shots with lower trajectory, using the land to possibly bring shots in where you're not necessarily pin seeking on every shot. And his mentality is one that just, even through the course of some of his heartbreak over the last few years when he hasn't found a way to win, I've always just loved how he's handled the adversity or maybe handling disappointment. He seems just to have that right mentality that you would want in a golfer. That's why I always think Dustin Johnson, for me, even though we know we've kind of forgot about him because he's gone to live and, you know, his desire to maybe want to be the best in the world isn't maybe what some people think it needs to be. He's always had that mentality that I feel like I always try to emulate when I'm golfing, is just like, okay, no big deal. I hit a big shot. Now I'm going to go ahead and kind of regroup and hit my best shot right here. And to be able to forget about that, Fleetwood seemingly has that attitude out there that I feel like you need to win a major, that it's a 4-day grind. You're going to have some bad breaks. You're going to have some bad bounces. And when you play links golf, sometimes you hit what you think is the perfect shot, but you just get a little bad bounce in the fairway or a rut, and all of a sudden you end up in one of these pot bunkers, and all of a sudden now you're staring at double bogey. So I like Fleetwood's chances this week. I really do. And I would be personally rooting for that to happen. I think it would be a great story for him to get his first major at a course that, like you said, essentially is his home one.
Well, let me tack on to that, because are you surprised about this fact that the last time we had an English golfer win the Open, Nick Faldo in 1992? I mean, whether it's Fleetwood or maybe a Justin Rose, it's somebody like, what would that be like Sunday? Let's just say, I don't know, if England also ends up being in the World Cup final, Brian.
Yeah. What a 1-2 punch that day that would be if England is in the finals for World Cup and you've got possibly an English winner. Yeah, it's surprising. But you got to, remembering that McIlroy is Northern Ireland, officially not, of course, England, I guess UK, if you want to consider it that way. But, there's been so many good English golfers. I mean, the fact that Luke Donald never won one, Westwood never won one. Then, of course, Poulter, and then you get into Rose. Rose, to me, that he has not won an Open championship, I feel like it's something that should be on his resume. I'm not saying that it's a career disappointment, but, man, he started off as an amateur, got on the scene his first year as a pro and played very well. He was won a gold medal. He's won a U.S. Open. He has just been an absolute assassin at Ryder Cups. I love even what he said this week when they said about, hey, are you going to try to keep playing well here to make the Ryder Cup? And he's like, well, my goal isn't to make the Ryder Cup. He goes, my goal is to have Europe win the Ryder Cup. He goes, if I'm good enough to be on it, then great. I'll be willing to, just that attitude I just love about Rose. To me, he's one of the most likable non-U.S. players that I've been watching here over the last 2 decades or so. And I think that would be a great story too, for sure. I think Rose is a great global ambassador for golf. I think that if he was able to come out on top, he could do it. And he's shown that as he's gotten older, even though now he is an older golfer in terms of how we compare the field, his game still could fit winning anywhere. I think he's a grinder. He's a bull. We know when his putter is on fire. We've seen it at the Ryder Cup. He can putt as good as anybody under pressure.
Brian Colzio, host of Tee to Green, which you hear on our affiliate, WGR Rochester, Saturday mornings. And we'll tell you about that as well. And a couple more golf questions for you, Brian. Well, I always kind of like picking your brain. Like, are there, for anybody who likes a little action here, any guys that are not the brand names here, your Schefflers, your Rorys, et cetera, that you think we should kind of keep an eye on here?
Good question. There's some players I feel like that have had decent seasons that have maybe the giddy up here to win at an event like this. Chris Gotterup, who has had a win recently on the PGA Tour a couple of weeks ago at the John Deere, he won the Scottish Open last year. So playing link-style golf is something that I feel like he's done well with. I mean, that's a guy way down the board that maybe you could sit here and make a strong argument for, if you're looking for a little bit extra action. Tom Kim just won. I don't know if back-to-back is necessarily something that would be easy to do. Doesn't happen that often. But maybe, you're looking for another English good story. How about Terrell Hatton? Here's another guy that probably is good enough to say, yes, he could have a major on his resume at some point. 17th at the Scottish Open, and he was number 1 in strokes gained in putting. So if you're putting well here, you get some lucky breaks in terms of some of those bounces I was talking about earlier. I could see a guy like maybe Terrell Hatton having an opportunity to grab his first major this week.
Brian, last one for you, because we haven't. Well, we've kind of discussed over the years, like, okay, what's happening with Liv? Is Liv Tour right now in hospice care? Like, do you see a scenario? I suppose somebody could swoop in with a big investment, but what's your read here? What are some of the outcomes of what has happened here with the public investment fund pulling out?
Yeah, it feels like it's on its last wind. I don't know if it'll necessarily disappear, but I think somebody probably would have enough intrigue to say, hey, there's something there. And I don't necessarily think that it has to go away, and maybe it just downright will at the end of the season. But somebody has got enough money that loves golf is maybe going to say, let's give this a shot and see what can handle it. Here's one thing John Rahm said this week that I think also could keep Liv and maybe find a lane in the golf world. Rahm said he would love for there to be another major outside of the U.S. and England or the U.K. I don't know. You're not going to necessarily just establish a golf major and say, let's play one in Spain, let's play one in Australia. But if you look at what did LIV do well, they had amazing events, and an amazing event every year at Adelaide in Australia. This year, when they went to South Africa, before it kind of got to having their issues, they also have had really good success with their events there. There are places on the planet that I think you can have events, and LIV can also be maybe a stepping ground for players coming out of college, or maybe that can't make the PGA Tour, that are maybe looking to say, hey, how can I get my name out there in the golf world to eventually maybe get to the PGA Tour? So I think if LIV picks their spot around the world, doesn't necessarily, you don't want to go into areas that have PGA Tour established events. I just think it's not going to work. And just understand, say, look, we're going to be a secondary tour. We're going to be a spot where guys can still aspire to be on the PGA Tour, but we're going to offer it in a little different manner, and we're going to offer it in different places around the world. I still think that can work because the PGA Tour is still predominantly a United States tour. Yes, they have a couple of events that they're aligned with, like this week, the Open and the Scottish Open. They do play the Canadian Open, but in general, it is a U.S. tour. And I think if they just say, okay, look, we are going to try to maybe be more of a global tour and go to some of these places, I think there's a spot for them. I don't think, though, anymore you're going to see names that are established on the PGA Tour just jumping over to LIV. I think now it's firmly established. It's not working in terms of it being a competitor. Can it be a minor league in some sense? I think it can work that way. Obviously, they're going to need some money, though, to make this work, because running golf tournaments and running an event and offering a lot of money to have people come and play, like that can be pretty pricey.
Brian Koziel, Tee to Green, coming up Saturday. We'll tell you, what's coming up on the show. I got to ask you a few Sabres questions. First of all, how fun is this that we're paying attention to free agency and the draft, and we're talking about moves in July? I kind of love it. It kind of gets you excited for next year. Brian, my opinion, I get why the Sabres move Bo Byram. They're looking a year down the road. They got a great return on this. But in the short term, I don't know if they're not a better team moving Bo Byram off here, knowing the strength of the team was that aggressive blue line. Who's on the second pair right now? Or am I don't be too concerned about that. What's your take on Bo Byram, the move both short term and long term here?
Yeah, I mean, I think moving Bo Byram makes them a worse team. I thought at times last year he was their best defenseman for sure. So in that sense, they're not better. They lost one of their best forwards, and Alex Tuck, too. So, yes, right now on paper, the Sabres are worse than when we last saw them on the ice. Byram's contract with Chicago was something that it would have been insane for Buffalo to even think about entertaining, the sense that he's going to be paid like one of the premier defensemen in the NHL. And I think maybe he could be. There were times where he looked like Buffalo's best defenseman. In that first round against the Bruins, he was excellent, had 4 goals. He was tremendous. We know even when Dahlin was kind of in and out, Byram really stepped up. He could play a ton of minutes. We know ultimately a big reason why he wanted out, or necessarily was encouraging the move out, was that he wanted to basically be Rasmus Dahlin somewhere else. He knew that it couldn't be here. He wanted to play 26 to 28 minutes every night. He wanted to be on the top unit's power play. He wanted to be out there at the end of the game when the game's tied or when Buffalo's down by a goal and they needed somebody out there. And he wasn't necessarily always out there because it was Dahlin and Samuelson as Buffalo's top pair. If they were trying to protect a lead, that was the pair that was out there. If they were trying to score, it was Dahlin, the sole defenseman, that was out there. And I think Byram really, really felt like, hey, I can get this role. Well, now this contract that Chicago has given him, this insane contract, really can almost validate all of those arguments, and now he can fulfill that role on Chicago. I think the Blackhawks are a long ways away from being very, very, very good in a very competitive division out there out west, where they're in there with Colorado and with Dallas and with Minnesota. So I don't necessarily know if he's going to win right away, but maybe he thinks, look, I won a cup with Colorado. I was kind of a part of a turnaround in Buffalo. Now let me go and be the guy somewhere else, make a ton of money, and establish myself here for the second half of my career. So, kudos to him. He got what he wanted. He's going to get to be the number 1 D on Chicago. He's getting paid, clearly, like a top one there. What Buffalo has done so far with some of their minor moves, I would say I'll give it an okay B to B minus grade so far. I still think I would like them to maybe make one more move. I know Connor Hellebuck's name certainly is still not going away with ties to the Sabres. If you look at what Buffalo's goaltending was last year, the rotation of Luukkonen and Lyon, it worked. Did it work in the playoffs? That's probably the debate that is the reason that Hellebuck's name still keeps coming up, and maybe why you could argue to say, hey, let's improve Buffalo in net. Alex Tuch's loss, we know I think there's the trio of guys, and it's Ostlund, it's Helenius, and it's the return of a healthy Yuri Kulik. Those three, maybe it's just, hey, look, we got all three of these guys that all ultimately could be available for all 82 games this year. Those three can take care of the loss in Tuch and maybe exceed in terms of their status. Is there going to be room for all three to get in the lineup? Well, maybe that means Jack Quinn gets moved. Maybe that means there's somebody else that gets moved in a trade. It's a good problem to have. The Sabres have a lot of good young depth right now. But the Hellebuck story, as long as their rumors are out there and Buffalo's linked, I feel like that's still number one on everybody's discussion board right now.
So we get to Labor Day weekend. Is Hellebuck still in Winnipeg?
Labor Day weekend.
I'm just picking that randomly because because that's probably before you start to get settled to get into your training camp and your preseason. I think if he's going to get moved, I think it happens before then. Yes, I do, because by then GMs are going to want to know where they're at, and I got to think that the Sabres will at that point will have either made the move or have moved on and decided that they're going to stay with the Luukkonen and Lyon rotation going into next year. I don't necessarily mean it has to be a rotation, but going in with those two with the understanding that, hey, we can rotate these guys, and it worked. If one guy seems to step up and take the reins, well, then so be it at that point. And I think for me, Lyon's numbers statistically, I love just a teeny bit more than Luukkonen last year to say that maybe there's a little bit more higher ceiling with him. But for the most part, if the Sabres go in with those two with kind of the same plan as the way they left it, I don't have a major problem with it. There wasn't a lot of games that I would talk on the post-game show afterwards that their goaltending let them down. And in the end, I guess in the NHL, if you have a good enough offense, which Buffalo does, that can lead to success. And ultimately that did lead to a division title for them. Yeah. Even a game where maybe UPL was off, you scored 8 and you beat Tampa Bay. So
that's right.
It all worked out pretty well. Brian Koziel, we'll have the schedule come out Thursday, and that'll get us even more excited for Sabres hockey. Saturday, where are you at for Tee to Green? What can we expect here on our station?
Yeah, looking forward to doing 2 hours this week. We go double the time for majors weekends, obviously with the Open Championship going on. We'll be talking a lot about that. But we are at Niagara Falls Country Club in Lewiston. Their annual Porter Cup amateur tournament is going on, so we'll be there. That is going to be in front of the final round. So anybody's looking to go watch good amateur golf this weekend or this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, up in Niagara Falls Country Club in Lewiston. Tiger Woods has played in this tournament. He made a hole-in-one. David Duval, Phil Mickelson have both won this event. A lot of major winners have played in this. DeChambeau has played in this. Ricky Fowler has played in this. Justin Thomas, Adam Scott. So a lot of good players have played in this. A lot of good amateur golf coming up here in West New York. Got the Porter Cup in Niagara Falls this week, and then I know you guys all know about the Monroe Invitational the following week. We're going to be keeping our eyes on that too. So a lot of good amateur golf coming to Western New York for the next 2 weeks if people want to watch in person. But that's where we'll be 7 to 9 Saturday, Odyssey app, and right here on WGR.
Fantastic stuff, Brian. Appreciate the time. We'll be checking it out, and let's touch base before the next Sabre season starts, shall we?
Sounds great. Enjoy the Open, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian. Brian Koziel, WGR Buffalo, joining us here. About Hellebuck. See, here's the thing. I think the Sabres have more to offer than any other team. But if you're thinking, all right, and he mentioned Quinn, who, look, you have talent that has higher ceiling on this team, right? He mentioned the 3 guys, right? But Quinn's still a very productive player. If you think it's going to be Quinn, UPL, and a first-round pick, that would have been done already. Like, are you willing to part with an Ostlund? Are you willing to part with an Helenius? And that's where this gets beyond the realm. We're excited about these prospects, but how much do the Sabres actually believe? If we begin the season with those three guys still on the team and Hellebuck's still up in Winnipeg, then answers the question that the Sabres think that they're a better team that can outscore some teams. Remember, goaltending in hockey is not equal to quarterbacking in the NFL. Let me say that again. In the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, good luck winning a championship. In hockey, who is the kid that Carolina called up? You can get away with it. And as Brian pointed out, the goaltending for the Sabres last year, the rotation worked. It did. Until you get to the creme de la creme of the NHL postseason, and we're looking at everything under the jeweler's eye, and it doesn't look quite right. Particularly Game 6 in Montreal, which, by the way, the Sabres still won. They still won that game. Part of me's hoping that England wins this game against Argentina. I don't really care one way or another. Honestly, I don't. I just hope for a good game. But the idea that we could have a Sunday where, can you imagine if a Justin Rose was on the leaderboard and you had England coming up in the World Cup final? That might be the biggest sports day in the history of that country, and that would be saying something. 585-866-4326 is the number. I've got more thoughts on baseball. We've got one Bills note to kind of pass along to you as well. And we have 3T. Terrible Time Timmy's terrible take of the day. As you're joining us on a 90-degree afternoon here in Rochester. My name is Gene Battaglia. This is Sports Bar.
WOCAM WBEE HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Coming up in less than an hour, it is the first of two semifinals, France and Spain. This game taking place in Dallas. Tomorrow it will be Argentina against England, same time tomorrow. Tonight in Philadelphia, it's the Major League All-Star game. Dylan Cease of the Jays going against Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies. Rochester Red Wings, they're on the break as well. A few days off here. The Wings back at it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as Jacksonville will come to town. NHL schedule, that will be released in full on Thursday. We could have a few Sabre dates for you tomorrow. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com, where today, get 2 rounds for the price of 1 with cart to Eagle Vale Golf Course. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM, AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Pull up a chair, stay for a while. You're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coat, get sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much harder than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills, Americans, Red Wings, and Nighthawks. Sports bar for Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2. Thank you for joining us here on Rochester Sports Leader, WGR Rochester, where I can't tell you too much, but there's some good things that are going to be happening this football season. Bring a smile on my face, I'll tell you that. 585-866-4326 is our phone number. Gene Battaglia, Tim Schneider, Dan DeLorean, who's been in San Diego, and the only thing I've seen of Dan tweet out, he went to the zoo, which is just very fitting. Can you imagine going with Dan DeLorean to the zoo, just kind of going there and looking at all the animals? And to me, I'm like, you know what? I think I want to do that with the Seneca Park Zoo. Just go to the zoo.
Let's do it. We'll have a sports bar day at the zoo.
Yeah, there's a connection here because follow me on this. Now, here's a fun fact. Dylan, we mentioned the update. Starting pitchers tonight, Dylan Cease against Christopher Sanchez. And really, it's nothing more than kind of an honorary thing, right? These guys will be out there, maximum of 2, probably only 1, but it's the honor. You get to start the All-Star game. And the last time a Toronto Blue Jay started, Tim is nodding his head. He knows exactly where I'm going. I'm like Ryan Leaf ready to throw an interception with this. The last time a Blue Jay started the All-Star game on the mound, and the last time a Philly started the All-Star game on the mound, it was the same guy. It was the late Roy Halladay. And Roy Halladay, before he passed, essentially driving his plane into the ground, doing tricks, dumb. There was a guy in Philadelphia, some sort of super fan, who started this Twitter feed, Zoo with Roy. And his whole thing was he just wanted to go to the zoo with Roy Halladay, his favorite player. And in the end, Roy Halladay ended up saying yes, and he goes to the zoo. So that's where I would say, you know how much fun, Dan? You went to the zoo in San Diego. I think we should just go to the zoo with Dan here.
I would do it.
Like go to look at the giraffes, go look at everything else. That would be a lot of fun.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. See, I have 2 adult children now. They're not children anymore, but they're my kids, right? But they're 23 and 20 now. Time really flies. And the funny thing is, you never outgrow the zoo. You just never do. So over the holidays, that's become kind of our thing. Go to the zoo when it's cold out and there's nobody else there, but you get to spend time with the animals, and the animals aren't going anywhere, and it's cold. They're still there. They still have to eat and live and do everything that they do. 585-866-4326. Here on a 90-degree day, which you will not find me complaining, because I know what the studio is like with no heat. Right? So
it's the best of both worlds, or the worst of both worlds. I am sticky right now.
All right.
It's got to be upper 80s.
All right. Now, I don't know who set it to Celsius. All right. 27 to Celsius. All right. So inside here in our studios, It's 80 degrees right now.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's hot because the circulation, this building built in, 1888, and good that, it's been repurposed over, not the decades, centuries, literally. But they just never quite got it right with our studio here, Tim. And because it's one of those days where we kind of people walk by, I have to keep the door shut because they don't realize we're on the air and, hey, you're going to be joining us on there. Before we get to your take of the day, and I've got some more thoughts here on the sports world, you're always welcome to join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. 585-866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. You can hit us up at WGR Rochester, and you can leave us a comment on YouTube and Twitch where we are streaming right now. The old show, which I think they accidentally canceled by that, Around the Horn. When Around the Horn first came out, it's like, oh, this doesn't kind of work. But by the end, it was actually celebrated. And it was celebrated because these were journalists kind of doing journalistic-y things. And in this day and age, you're not going to have all that much left. And the story when it came out was because ESPN wanted to create more betting content. And then they lost their deal with the betting company. And the ESPN bet is still out there, I suppose. But nothing ever replaced Around the Horn. PTI is still out there, but they just run SportsCenter or whatever. Why am I bringing this up? Because Tony Reale, Fordham guy, he had a bit on, as the host of Around the Horn, he was also kind of stats boy on PTI. I'm going back many, many years. And stats boy at the end would come in and like, hey, you got something wrong, or here's some more details on this. So from hour number one, there were two things we left up in the air. One was, all right, in addition to Bryce Harper winning as a Washington National Home Run Derby, there were two other guys in the history of the Home Run Derby that actually won it at home. You would think since 1985, every year there's a hometown guy. We've only had it happen 3 times. I couldn't pull them off the top of my head. That's the first one. And then the joke that, okay, ESPN wasn't even putting up the odds for Syracuse to win the ACC because, quite honestly, even their bash were like, no, don't bet that. No, we can't take your money on that. So we bring in our very own version of Stats Boy. Tim, all right, Stat Boy, what do you have?
In 1990, Ryne Sandberg won in Wrigley Field for the Chicago Cubs. That was the first hometown guy to win. And then in 2015, Todd Frazier at Cincinnati's field took that one down against Jock Peterson.
That was
in a great home run derby.
That was one I should have come up with. But it's funny, like you think of that like as like yesterday. It's 11 years that have passed. There are odds out there for Syracuse football. What are they?
Plus 12,500 to win the ACC.
My brother Kevin, I rail on him like this. He's somebody that will go to Vegas once a year. And you don't need to do this, because you can bet futures. You can do all this on your phone. But you go to Vegas, it's something special. He would always go out there, and this is the Sabre drought. This is like, hey, the Sabres are whatever. Like, why? No, putting $50 down on something that won't happen is not going to give you life-changing money. I'm sorry. It just won't. It's just a $50 donation to the betting company. And make fun of them that. So my advice, don't bet on Syracuse to win the ACC.
The odds are nice, but it's not going to happen. So
no.
To your point, that's throwing money away.
No, that's it. 585-866-4326. That is our number if you would like to join us. Talking about money, all right, I'm going to give you plus money. Now, okay, this is Gino's take, mind you.
Sure.
Unpopular take, because I think we're all kind of star-driven. And France has the stars, right? France is maybe for that reason, and plus 140 on the money line. Spain plus 220. The draw at plus 200. I would not go with France today. I'd actually go for Spain at plus 220. As Jeremy White has pointed out in the morning, Spain has allowed just 8 shots on goal this tournament. That is sick. And if we get a game that, hey, France only shoots it on goal twice. No, spare me. You want action. You want up and down. This is going to be a great matchup today. But I'm always going to lean on the side of, okay, who has the better defense? And that would be Spain. So Spain getting plus money today, kind of interesting. Betting the draw. Now, the way it works in soccer is technically after 90 minutes, that's considered the draw. So if we end up in a tie game, okay, that's fair enough. So we'll see that. So again, that was your odds today, 3 o'clock. Going back to this story about the baseball labor strife, and this is continuing on and on. And shame on me, because sometimes you see social media campaigns, but I didn't pause to think, was there anything behind this? Has this popped up in your feed? Like, there's been some feeds, and this one little graphic I keep seeing on Facebook shows a bar graph.
Mm-hmm.
And the bar graph is, here's the payroll for the LA Dodgers, and here's the payroll for the Miami Marlins. And it just says level the field. I'm not thinking about who bought that. I'm not thinking who's behind that. It's actually Major League Baseball's behind that.
Rob Manfred.
Which, okay, shame on me for not, like, recognizing that. I see something and I'm just kind of, flicking past it. Yep, I already know. I understood that. But that's the why behind it. And today, the Players Association absolutely kind of ripped into that. Like, let's stop here with the campaigns. It's almost like, hey, it's like a political campaign or issue advertising or something like that. And also, I think it's kind of curious that if you're baseball, here would be my advice. No one cares about the Marlins. That's the wrong team to pick. If you want to have a conversation, maybe go to a Rust Belt town like Cleveland or Pittsburgh or a long-time established fan base. In Miami, they like baseball for their home country. See the World Baseball Classic. They don't care about the Marlins down there. Neither should we. That is not a team we care about. So that would be my first advice to Major League Baseball. Don't do that. But to baseball's point, okay, all right, maybe they do have a point, right? Like, all right, should we be actually, kind of leveling things out? Well, sure. But when you hear Paul Skeens just put it out there yesterday, and again, this quote, both sides there's a line they're not going to cross. Whether there results in missing games or missing a season, we'll see. Okay, it's out there. There is one of the stars of the game saying, hey, we could miss a season next year. Everybody brace for that. Okay. And he's one of the 8 representatives. He's allowed to say that. That was not off the cuff. That was planned. I guarantee you that was planned. That was given the green light by the Players Association, like, nope, put it out there. And for Paul Skeens, I'll give him credit because that's a lot of that's putting a lot on your shoulders there, bud. But for the Players Association, maybe he actually is. He should be the face of this. He should belong in Pittsburgh for as long as he wants to be in Pittsburgh. The reason he leaves Pittsburgh shouldn't be the Pirates won't pay him. No, the Pirates should pay him what the wage is. And it shouldn't be based on we want to pocket money. But it got me thinking, all right, so if Skeens is saying, hey, we're going to miss a season, okay, that won't hurt every player, but it will hurt some. But the question would be, would it hurt any teams? Okay? And this is the part I found interesting because I did a little research, right? There are teams that are diversified. Okay? The Red Sox are diversified. They have Nesson. They own a piece of the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's a big conglomerate. The Red Sox not playing, it'll hurt, but that's not going to torpedo them, okay? Same thing kind of with the Yankees, and yes, and if you have other revenue streams other than gate revenue, you're going to be okay. There are 3 teams. One is an easy pull. 2 are like, that's interesting. That, okay, this is actually going to hurt. And these owners might say, hey, we got to get back on the field or we're going to have some financial difficulty. And one is, oh, wait a second. Maybe this is why they're putting the Marlins in the damn bar graph. That's number 1 on the list. The Miami Marlins are owned by a guy named Bruce Sherman. And how this guy owns the team, I have no idea. Because that team, and I'm going to get a little bit, what do we say in marketing, in the weeds here. But I think you can kind of catch on. The debt load for the Miami Marlins is 38%. 38%. Okay? Bottom line, missing payments, problem. Okay? And that's a reason why he just sold another 15%. All right? Like, literally, he's going to take on all these minority partners. That's a team that could be for sale. Right? Like, all of a sudden, they have a lot of debt. And it's not surprising, right? There's no big TV contract in South Florida. No one goes to the games in South Florida. They're not winning. Okay, they're 500 and they're spunky. But that is an example of, okay, that is an ownership group that doesn't really have it all together. I look at somebody like the Montreal Expos years ago that, all right, they really couldn't find an owner that could shoulder the losses. All right, should the Miami Marlins be in existence? The answer is probably no. The other two teams are surprising. Next up on the list, a team that, okay, built a stadium, but put a lot of their own money into it, and because of that, they have a debt load. That's the Minnesota Twins. The Twins, who you think of Minneapolis, small market. It's not. It's right in the middle of the pack here. And the Twins, the Pohlad family, cheap, right? But $400 million in debt they're carrying around with Target Field. Keep that in mind when you compare that to, say, the Buffalo Bills. How much debt really are the Pagulas carrying? When you factor in the PSLs, and then you sell a couple of stakes in the team to private equity, including the two former basketball players. No, they're fine. There's not going to be any debt. They might say there's debt. No, the Twins have debt. And right now, that is climbing to $500 million. So the Twins, another team that might say, hey, all right, will their representative say, hey, see, this is the task for Manfred. How do you keep all these owners all on the same page? I think the players are very clear, but can the owners withhold the losses? In Miami, they can't. In Minnesota, they can't. And then this next team is surprising because this next team has won a World Series in the last decade. This next team is held as an example. Wait a second. You want to make money? Okay, it's not just the stadium. Look at the development around the stadium. This is what needs to happen. You should own all these rights. Why put a team downtown? Go move to one of the suburbs. You own all the development rights, and then you're going to be raking in money that has nothing to do with baseball. What team am I describing? The Atlanta Braves. You would think the Atlanta Braves, competitive, star power, won a World Series recently. Now, I'm not sure where they are in terms of their local TV deal, okay? But you would think that since you just draw a radius around the Southeast, right? Like, there's not a lot down there. There's not a team in Charlotte. There's not a team in Nashville. Like, you have to go far out. Like, the Braves own the Southeast, right? But the days of TBS Superstation are long gone, right? No. The Braves having a tremendous debt load. They still owe $759 million on the Battery. Now, I have not been to the Battery, but I have friends that have been to the Battery, and they say it's a fun experience. Like, imagine just kind of shows and music and everything else, like built around a ballpark, and people live down there. It's like a little neighborhood based around a baseball team. And part of me is kind of sort of jealous, right? They're trying to do this kind of sort of in a way with the Mets, like, all right, what do we do with the development? And Steve Cohen won the rights to a casino, and you could see things kind of happening. Like, Shea Stadium, what was that known for? Hey, there's a junkyard beyond center field, right? Welcome to Queens, everybody. Hey. So, like, when we're talking about the labor situation, I don't have any doubt that the players will be unified, that the players have been kind of like squirrels saving up. And, hey, you might miss a paycheck or two. But for you, the individual, as long as you're not spending way beyond these three teams, and there's probably more if we dug a little deep. This is only based on kind of public info that I was able to find. Who else? What other owners is this really going to hurt? Keep an eye on some of these stories. As I did not put two and two together that this level the field you see on social media is actually coming from Rob Manfred's office. Come on.
That's a bad look.
It's a bad look. It's a bad look. And I think when you say salary cap, that's a problem. Here would be my solution. Ready? Compromise. And maybe this is ultimately where it ends up. That for us as a fans, what would we want to see? We want to see a salary cap floor, right? So that everything sort of raises. And I don't necessarily need to see the cap at the top. I need to see deferred contracts go bye-bye. That's disgusting what the Dodgers are doing. Can we just do that? And maybe, like the NBA has their second apron, if Steve Cohen or somebody wants to go berserk in the offseason, some sort of tax, and I'm talking like something even bigger at this, because there's something to be said for, okay, the team is going to take it on the chin in terms of paying the tax, but because I, myself, own SNY, I know if I land a big star, that's going to improve ratings, and then my other business is going to profit. I think there's something to that's part of the problem with baseball. You will never have, in my opinion, a real salary cap in baseball. The compromise will be ultimately we're going to have a floor, we're going to get rid of deferred contracts, and teams that want to spend can spend, but we're going to penalize them. What's the problem with that? Why would any team have a problem with that? My name's Gene Battaglia. We've got some more things coming up. And time for your calls at 585-866-4326 here on WGR Rochester.
Sports Update.
Coming up at 3 o'clock, it's the first of two semifinals in the World Cup from Dallas. It's France and Spain. France is the favorite in this one. England and Argentina coming up 3 o'clock tomorrow. Now, tonight in Philadelphia, it's the Major League All-Star Game. Dylan Cease of the Jays going against Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies. All-Star break also for the Rochester Red Wings. The Wings will be back at it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when Jacksonville comes to town. The NHL schedule, we'll wait for that. That will be released in full on Thursday. Some dates to be released coming up tomorrow. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com, where today get 2 rounds for the price of 1 with card to Eaglevale Golf Course. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM, AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
All right, good luck to Penfield Little League. Can we just say that right now? They're going to be our representative. And I'm not sure how it all works, but one of our guys, Rich Nightingale, great sales guy. He's like you want to talk about once in a lifetime. So there are 8 teams from New York State that are going to be scoring off to represent our state. And the team from our region is Penfield. And they're all going this coming weekend to Staten Island. And as part of that, these kids are going to get to take in the Yankee game against the Pirates Monday night. So, yes, that would be kind of cool. I've always kind of wondered, what are the odds for any Little League team just to get out of, hey, your own region, your own state, and then you've got to go regionally where, it's like, okay, well, then you've won that. Where do you got to go after that? You got to go to Cranston, Rhode Island. And then if you win that, then you get to go to Williamsport. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. So they're just talking with Rich during one of our commercial breaks, like, hey, okay, so how difficult is it? I know you want to just say, hey, we'll play our own game, kind of but it would kind of help, all right, these other teams, how do you, you can't scout these other teams. Oh, no, foolish me. Oh, no. They're scouts. They have a book on all these other under 12-year-olds. Yep, I tell you, that I always feel conflicted when we get to the Little League World Series because it's great television. They're kids, right? And the pressure for some of these kids, it's great to see when they're performing at the highest level, but I don't want them to be exploited, and I feel there's a certain element to that, and I always feel kind of sheepish tuning in. That's just me. You could say, Gene, get over it. But 585-86. So good luck, Penfield. I know you'll do us proud one way or another. That's coming up. And we're just like, hey, can I call in? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make the exception. Rich, yes.
We'll allow it.
We'll allow it. We'll get an update on Penfield Little League coming up Monday. 585-866-4326. Brian Colzio was with us in hour number 1 where, hey, we talked about the Open, right? That's coming up this week. Wow, this is usually it's All-Star break week. Okay, what are we talking about? And the All-Star game itself, yeah, you will tune in tonight. And my pet peeve tonight, Tim, you know what my pet peeve is? And every year, I'm going to refrain from putting this out there. But imagine you are the head of a global marketing firm. And the assignment is, how do we get a stadium full of 50,000 people willingly, enthusiastically, to stand up and hold up the logo of our company? So tonight, when you're watching, because, you'll have the 7th inning stretch, and you'll have God Bless America, and you'll have some other things. You will have a pause in the game. I don't know what it is, but I call it stand up for the credit card company. How do we get to do this? No one likes cancer. Let's make sure that we're standing with cancer. So stand up for the credit card company will be coming up at some point in the game tonight. It drives me crazy. I'm like, people don't call it. They don't see it for what it is, but because, hey, we're going to donate just a little bit of money to the cancer research. I guess we can say it's a good thing, but I see it for what it is. It's a clever marketing ploy, and that person probably got a very, very nice raise getting his logo out there time and time again. his company's logo. 585-866-4326 is the number. Also, baseball-wise, this is the fun part, too. Like, World Cup, all right, we don't have that for another 4 years, and when we do have it again, it'll be in Spain, Morocco, France, I believe. And that'll be great. 4 years from now. Next year, we get the Women's World Cup. Okay, we're definitely into that, too. And that will be down in Brazil, which the time difference there, not bad. And then in 2028, all right, on our home turf, the Olympics in Los Angeles. Yes. Now, I think flag football is kind of a joke. It's kind of like the NFL paid their way into that, but whatever. But I'm glad it wasn't that long ago that the IOC just dropped baseball. Mm-hmm. Like, what? Like, why? Because we're too good at it? Well, guess what? There are other countries that are really good at it, and almost like baseball proves a point with the World Baseball Classic. Like, no, look at what this could be. Venezuela and some of these other countries. Japan. Like, this should be something that, and thankfully we do have it back in the Olympics. We've had it back for some time. But how do you make it better? Well, baseball has kind of put it out there. We're going to clear the decks. We're going to shut down the sport for 2 weeks in the summer, which is a major commitment considering that is a lot of gate revenue. That is some TV dollars that will be just kind of pushed aside. But for the betterment of the game, that should be kind of a headline story, right? Like, here are our stars in Los Angeles playing. And you imagine the World Baseball Classic. Okay, well, here it is on an Olympic stage. Maybe. There's an article today from Jeff Passan, who, by the way, is getting roasted. He said basically that the Home Run Derby, the new format, would suck. It didn't suck. It was a little different, but it was just fine. Whatever, Jeff. And he owned it. Said it was a bad take. But Jeff has put it out there that, hey, didn't say in jeopardy, but there are a number of logistical issues when it comes to having the Players Association sign off on going to the Olympics, which they haven't done yet. Insurance, name, image, and likeness, even tickets and hotel rooms. That hasn't been sorted out. Okay. This is pretty simple, right? For insurance, they do the insurance thing with the World Baseball Classic also. NIL, okay, like the Olympic Committee, like, okay, are we allowed to show Bryce Harper's image? You got the betting company got in trouble. Okay, no, like, okay, you can cross those off one by one. What this is really, 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 really about is the MLBPA is just using this as a chip. They're not going to sign off on something the owners and you, the fans, will want until we have a labor agreement in baseball. So this is something that, hey, we're going to go to this imaginary bargaining table. I don't know, is it really a bargaining table anymore? Just do this over email or Zoom or whatever it is. Like, the IOC is going to want a quick response here. They're going to have some, like, threats like, okay, well, if we don't get this done, then we're going to not have professionals. All these are going to be fake deadlines, okay? But until we have a deal in place for Major League Baseball at the Olympics, well, we're not going to have that until you have a labor agreement. That's my read on this. 585-866-4326. As I'm looking ahead to these summers ahead, again, like next year, Women's World Cup, to me, the only thing that loses the zip off of it is the fact that it's not here. That I know people, and chances are you may know somebody who was actually invested the money and gone seen the World Cup. Or maybe you were in one of these towns recently where the World Cup was going on. I myself was in Boston, and I saw some things around. I'm like, this is kind of cool. You're not going to have that with the World Cup being in Brazil for the women, but we're certainly going to be into it from a TV and competitive standpoint. No doubt about that. And then for the Olympics, who's not into the Olympics? Yeah, we can all kind of poo-poo it, but when it comes around, especially when it's in Los Angeles, we're all going to be into it. I'm thinking of going out there, Tim. I've never taken in the Olympics, but just kind of showing up. Like, at minimum, just go up to the parade route, to the marathon route, which is like a long parade, I suppose. Like, just taking that part in. I would just like to be in an Olympic town, and heck, you don't need to fly into Los Angeles. Fly into Vegas or fly into Northern California. Just kind of drive down.
If you can make it happen, make it happen.
I know, like,
bucket list items.
All right, so so just be aware that as long as we don't get the tap, as long as the sports bar is here, right? That we might be taking some time off for the Olympics in Los Angeles? Or can we set up a remote broadcast from LA?
That would be incredible.
So you know what is in LA this year? It's the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So the Super Bowl, we've always talked about this. Like, do we go to Radio Row? How would we make this work? And then, ultimately we don't have that Monday morning meeting that after the AFC Championship game. That does not happen. Kind of forgot that Chad Kelly is still trying to make it a go. So Chad Kelly's name came up because he's defending his team. And I'll get to that because I think it's kind of interesting. But Chad Kelly, if you remember, Mr. Irrelevant with the Denver Broncos, goes to Von Miller's Halloween party. Something bad there happens with the Denver Broncos, and he spent a cup of coffee with a camp with the Colts. Never could make it in the NFL. And he's had his issues going back to college, right? Is it the name Chad Kelly that still is providing him this opportunity? You give him credit because CFL players don't make big money. They just don't. Like, if you're a doctor or lawyer in Rochester right now, you're making more than Chad Kelly. Like, I don't know the exact amount, but just because the salary cap is what it is in the CFL, that's why you don't see a lot of NFL hopefuls just kind of saying, hey, you know what? This makes sense. I'm going to play a little football in the summer, and then I can opt out when an NFL team comes calling. That doesn't happen. Like, for a player that wants an opportunity for NFL camp right now, you don't see any of them going up to Toronto or wherever showing, hey, this is what I can do. Now, the CFL is a different world. It's like once you kind of commit to it, that's that. Maybe you'll come across the border the following season. But you know what? Ultimately, playing football for money, that's kind of a cool thing. So, Chad Kelly, like, his name's coming up because I didn't even realize this. The Argos haven't had a home. Like, wait a second. Hold on. Okay, so we have just 3 World Cup games left, okay? 3 o'clock today, it's in Dallas. 3 o'clock tomorrow, it's in Atlanta. Sunday, 3 o'clock, New Jersey, which, nothing against New Jersey, but that's the stadium we chose, that FIFA chose? Come on, really? I suppose it had to be on the East Coast, but I would have gone with Atlanta or Foxborough maybe. I know it's the New York market, blah, 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 but that stadium's kind of like, yeah. Anyhow, the Argos. The last game in Toronto at the soccer stadium there was 12 days ago. Wait a second. What are we doing? You can't put the Argos back in there? Turns out that stadium, BMO Field, it's on the former site of Exhibition Stadium. They tore that down. Apparently, there was a lot of temporary stands that went up. And because of that, they all have to come down, and they're not going to open the place back up to the Argos until, well, all the temporary stuff is gone. So the Argos open up the season with a 7-game road trip. Their first home game wasn't until August the 6th. You know, it's surprising to me, not the fact that, okay, it takes all that time to, for the temporary stadiums and to get everything back to where it was, for safety and everything else, blah, blah, blah. The surprising thing is you're talking about the 4th biggest metro in the continent, right? North America. And you can't find another home for the Argos?
Would the Blue Jays offer up Rogers Center?
No, it's not. Remember, when they redid that stadium, no more football or soccer. It is just baseball only, and, of course, they could bring in a concert at any point. So that was the first thought. Like the idea that, hey, could we actually put the Argos there? For many, many years, that's where the Argos were. And I don't know my Toronto history here as to why the Argos aren't there, probably because they're getting charged less rent. And probably because, hey, it's actually it's a better environment. And that field shared by Toronto FC of MLS and the Argos, the outdoor stadium, looks nice. It looks right-sized. What is it, 25,000, 30,000? They bumped it up there for the World Cup. It looked like a totally different stadium. It's surprising to me that is the case. It also kind of brings into the point of, all right, like where we were here from Western New York and the fears that we had. And I think some of it was, founded in fact, the fact that, hey, Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment wanted to buy the Bills before Terry Pegula came in. Why? Why? Because they just wanted to help the businesses in Buffalo, or eventually, much more difficult to build a stadium or whatever it is in Canada as opposed to here. That's the bottom line. When, and look, the one thing that we're not talking about in baseball, because it's a chip for the owners, when we do get the labor agreement, that's when hey, ta-da, by the year 2034, we'll have 2 more teams in Major League Baseball. And I am on the record, because I love the city and because I love the history of baseball. Like, if you're going to pick one team from the East and one team from the West, I don't care from the West if it's Salt Lake City or Portland or wherever. It doesn't matter. But one team from the East, I would definitely like it in Montreal. I'd like to see the Expos come back. And I think the passion is there. But you have 2 problems. Problem number 1, you don't have a stadium. And they're not going to put any money behind it. So how do you solve that problem? Haven't seen that quite fixed. So that's why I kind of cross out Montreal. Eventually, I'm guessing it'll probably be Nashville and Salt Lake City if you follow the money. But the point is about the Argos. Chad Kelly. I had forgotten Chad Kelly was still up there. And for the missteps in Chad Kelly's career, give him credit that he's still making a go of it. And maybe he doesn't know another life, but it could have been just very easy for him to say, you know what, football's not working out. The CFL is beneath me. He hasn't done that, and I'll give him credit. Last call coming up next, 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia here, WGR Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Yeah, this is usually when it comes, we all think like teammates like each other. Apparently, like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo did not like each other whatsoever. Like, Hero on an Instagram account questioned the $60 million salary that Adebayo would have been getting. Like, basically what he's saying is, I should have been getting that, in so many words. Apparently, Adebayo saw Hero and confronted him in Vegas, and the two had to be separated. So Tyler Hero, no surprise, like, you're out of here. Let's get in Antetokounmpo, and Tyler Hero is now in Milwaukee. But I just think that's funny. Like, that's the one thing you can never ever do with a teammate: question somebody else's money. And or if you do it behind closed doors. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of things, but you go to social media, and sometimes some of these athletes, I don't know if this is the case, but you have a phone, and you've been having some fun, and maybe you've had one too many drinks. Like, no. Don't do that. So good on Adebayo that said, what the hell? Like don't do that. And if Tyler Hero thought he should have been the centerpiece in Miami, get the heck out of here. And for that matter, Adebayo's not the centerpiece. It's Antetokounmpo. Now, this also brings back the question of, where does King LeBron go? LeBron James. Wherever he goes, I would just say good luck, because 40-year-olds don't win NBA championships. In my limited research, on this, I could only come up with 3 guys, 40 or more. The biggest known name being Robert Parrish. But he didn't do that with the Celtics. He was on the bench with the last ride Chicago Bulls. Actually, it wasn't the last ride. It was 97. I don't remember Robert Parrish, the Chicago Bull. So, on the one hand, let's give LeBron James credit. LeBron James has nothing left to prove. And at this point, you're playing for love of the game. You made more money than God. You don't need more money. You've won enough championships. What is it you're out there to prove? But if he wins another championship, even as a role player, that's why I do think he's taking his time trying to think this through. He's not shaking a team down for more money. He might be shaking a team down for, I want personnel decisions, I want to say, and he's earned that right, I suppose. Do we get to the end of the week and we still don't have word where he's going? I would say the answer on that is yes. Yeah, there's also this Aaron Rodgers that helps his brand when, it's ESPN Talking Head Show. What are we going to talk about today here in the July? Well, we know Aaron Rodgers is not. Let's talk about LeBron. There's today's show. It's on the Odyssey app, 1 to 3 Eastern. If you want to listen back to it at any point. And the Rewind feature. Thanks to Brian Colesio, who stopped by today. Tomorrow on the show, PJ Glasser, some winners. He'll be stopping by. For Tim Schneider, my name is Gene Battaglia. Show up on the Bulldog coming your way next year on WGR Rochester.